So I'm going to tell you my journey, and that's going to explain SWAP. So I was a product of divorce quite young, 3-4 years old, and then went into life kind of being my own boss really from that point. I was diagnosed ADHD, so school was never going to work really for me, and it didn't work. I like to talk, they didn't like me to talk. That was kind of it. I started finding partying, girls, you name it, around about the age of like 14, 15, and by 17 I'd been kicked out of my home and I was selling drugs on the streets, like mostly just party kind of vibes, you know, coke, pills, speed, you know, LSD, all of that kind of stuff. By the age of 19, I guess you could say I'd seen the light and I was trying to be a good person or a better person. And this is the strategy that I used to get rid of a lot of my vices. Now, at this point, it's important for me to say that this isn't really a strategy that's about me. Actually, I'm just doing this to fix myself. And I want to make sure that it gets out there because it's worked for me so far, 20 years in. And I started, like I said, 19 years old and started to take out little coping mechanisms of mine. Now, I was pretty much taking all the drugs I mentioned, and I needed to find some way of slowly moving from that set of coping mechanisms to being freer, happier. Some of those coping mechanisms weren't good for my life at the time. So I started to make tiny, small changes because I haven't got a massive amount of self-control, and I need small changes in my life in order for me to be able to achieve any goals. So that's where SWAP came in. Small wins action plan. And it was about those small wins. I initially started to tackle speed, amphetamines. I was taking loads of drugs at the time, but I decided to take care of that one because I hated the way it tasted and it didn't really do that much to me. Surprise to surprise, I've got ADHD. Part of the medication for that is an amphetamine, so it probably just chilled me out a little bit. So that was the first to go. The idea was easy for me because I was still able to take pills. I was still able to smoke green. I was still able to drink, smoke cigs, you know, cocaine, you name it. All of that stuff I didn't concentrate on. I left it all out, and I didn't give myself a hard time for doing those things either, because I was taking control. I was doing a small swap. I was taking a small thing out of my life. And the second part to taking that out is equally as important as that first step. The second part is about putting a positive into your life. Now, at the time, I wasn't very healthy, so I decided what I was going to do is I was going to go swimming. Simple. Don't take speed. Go swimming once a week. And it was fairly easy. I could go and speak to people at parties and things. They'd say, do you want a line? I'd be like, no, I'm staying away from that. And I felt good. Felt like I was taking control of something. And that's where SWAP was first birthed. That first initial change, swapping a positive out for a negative. No. Swapping a negative out for a positive. And it's the mindsets that it changes. As you make that small change, as you make that tiny little adjustment in your life in the area of your vice, and you'll know what your vice is. You'll know what you want to change. You know, I've got vices still. Listen, this program is not something that is like a quick fix. It's not like a wham bam thank you ma'am program. You know, that's why it's free, because it's easy and it'll help you change, and it'll help you change slowly. So I'm still a work in progress. I've still got things that I'm swapping out now. You know, I got rid of cocaine. I got rid of pills. I got rid of speed. I got rid of excessive drinking. I haven't got rid of smoking yet. Smoking cigarettes has been one thing that I've still not tackled. I've not put a swap into place, but I want to. So, in order to explain swap, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a live change, and I'm going to take cigarettes out of my life, and I'm going to do it with really small incremental changes that are super easy, so you don't need much self-control. What I usually do when I'm starting to disrupt my mindsets and my behaviors around my vice is to take something really easy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my cigarettes that I usually smoke, I'll throw them away. I'm going to replace them for cigarettes that I don't really like as much. It's a small change, but it's a little disruption. Then you're taking control of your vice. Then you can be positive about yourself, and you can put something positive into your life. It's so easy, and it needs to be easy. You know, the thing that's positive, you need to throw yourself at that. It might be somebody that you really love and you don't spend enough time with. Right? Spend as much time with that person as possible whilst you are making these changes in your vice. Get rid of the negative and pull in the positive. Small, easy changes. And when you've done that for a determinate amount of time, you set what's easy. When you've done that change for a small amount of time and put that positive in for a small amount of time, you'll realize, shit, I can change. And then you'll start to move on from that one and change it a little further. I went from changing the cigarette packs to saying, right, okay, I'm not going to smoke for that hour in the morning. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and spend some time with my daughter. And that cements the change up here. And then you change again. Or maybe I'm only going to do 2 hours of smoking. I'm only going to have 1 hour where I smoke in the morning, 1 hour where I smoke in the evening. I'm going to put more time into my daughter. The change, the swap, it works up here. Your brain starts to click and think, oh, I can change. Which raises your self-esteem, which brings you into more identity, because you're taking control of something that you never thought you could. So if you can, put really small, really easy changes into the area of your vice. Could be super, super simple. Could be just don't do that thing for 10 minutes. Call your mum for 10 minutes, you know? Could be anything. When you've put that small change in your life and you've put that small positive in your life, then go and do it again. Eventually, after small win, after small win, after small win, after small win, what you're going to find is that your vice is gone. And it didn't seem that difficult. Now, don't get me wrong, there's parts upon the journey which are difficult, you know? Little life incidences happen, and you might go back to that vice. The most important part of this is not to give yourself a hard time at all about any changes you're making. None. PMA, positive mental attitude. We've got to have that in order to be able to swap this out. You're swapping a negative mindset for a positive one. Beast yourself up. Tell yourself you're a warrior. You know, tell yourself, I can do this. I've done it. I'm doing it. You know? Let that confidence glean into the rest of your life. And you'll take control. And then you'll start being who you want to be. But slowly. The massive wholesale changes, they don't work. They don't work. It's too much for us to handle. The small, incremental changes. Adding in positives. Oh, that's easy. Good luck.